I heard the crash of my son's Lego set hitting the tile floor before I heard my sister's laughter, high, sharp, deliberate. By the time I turned around, she was already reaching for the next gift. It was supposed to be perfect. Jake's 8th birthday. Our first party in the new house, the modest 3-bedroom I'd saved 2 years to buy after the divorce. Nothing fancy. Just family, chocolate cake, and the stack of presents Jake had been staring at all morning with that gap-toothed smile that made everything worth it. My sister Morgan arrived late, of course. She pushed through the door in her designer heels, oversized sunglasses still on, carrying a gift bag that looked expensive and empty at the same time. That's how Morgan did everything, loud, showy, hollow. Sorry, she sang, not sounding sorry at all. Traffic from the city was insane. She lived 20 minutes away. Mom rushed over to hug her. Dad nodded from his seat at the kitchen table. My younger brother Chris barely looked up from his phone. This was standard. Morgan was the golden child, the one with the corner office and the luxury condo, the one who'd married a surgeon and drove a car that cost more than my annual salary. I was Alicia. The divorced single mom. The one who worked double shifts at the hospital and clipped coupons. The one they tolerated at family gatherings with tight smiles and careful silences. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, drop a comment below. I want to know I'm not alone in this. It wasn't always this way. Growing up, Morgan and I shared a room, shared secrets, shared dreams. But somewhere around high school, things shifted. She got prettier, more confident, more everything. I got pregnant senior year, unplanned, terrifying, real. Mom cried for a week. Dad stopped looking at me directly. Morgan went to college while I stayed home with a screaming infant, watching my friends graduate through Facebook photos. The divorce 3 years ago sealed it. My ex-husband, Marcus, had been charming at first, then controlling, then cruel in small ways that left no marks. When I finally left, my family's response was, "Marriage takes work, Alicia." Only my dad said something different. Quietly, in the driveway after I'd moved out, "You did the right thing." It was the most he'd said to me in years. Jake tore through the presents with pure 8-year-old joy. A skateboard from Chris. Art supplies from Mom and Dad. Books from my coworker Sarah, who'd become more family than family. And then the big one, the Lego creator set he'd circled in the catalog so many times the page was soft. Mom, look. He held it up like a trophy. Morgan was watching from the couch, wine glass in hand. She'd helped herself to my bottle, the one I'd bought for after everyone left. "That's a lot of plastic junk," she said lightly. Jake's smile dimmed slightly. He looked at me. "It's not junk," I said evenly. "It's what he wanted." Morgan shrugged, took another sip. "I'm just saying. Kids these days have too much stuff. When I have children, I'm doing Montessori. Educational toys only." Mom nodded along. Morgan's right. Quality over quantity. I felt the familiar heat in my chest, the swallowed words, the careful neutrality. Jake had 6 presents total. Morgan's baby shower the year before, for a pregnancy that never happened, that she'd announced and then quietly never mentioned again, had a gift table that looked like a baby's R Us exploded. But I smiled. I always smiled. It happened fast. Too fast to stop. Morgan stood up, unsteady on her heels. She'd had more wine than I realized. She walked toward the pile of opened gifts, and I thought she was heading to the bathroom. Instead, she picked up the Lego box. "You know what Jake needs to learn," she said, her voice suddenly sharp. "That things don't matter. That material possessions are temporary." And she dropped it. The box hit the tile floor with a sickening crack. Pieces scattered everywhere, tiny colored bricks skittering under the couch, under the table, irretrievable. Jake made a sound I'll never forget. Not quite a cry, more like all the air leaving his lungs at once. "Morgan." I lunged forward, but she was already reaching for the skateboard. "See? He's fine. Kids are resilient." She shoved the skateboard off the table. It clattered down, wheels spinning uselessly. "Stop it." I grabbed her arm, but she shook me off, strong, focused, purposeful. The art supplies were next. She swept them off the table in one motion. Paint tubes burst. Brushes scattered. The watercolor set Chris had picked out carefully shattered like glass. And my family? They watched. Mom stood frozen with a dish towel. Chris filmed it on his phone. Dad sat at the table, jaw tight, saying nothing. Only Jake moved. He dropped to his knees, trying to gather the Lego pieces with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face. "Why are you being so dramatic?" Morgan said, laughing. Actually laughing. "They're just things, Alicia. If you've ever watched someone destroy what matters most while others smile, hit that like button. This story needs to reach people who understand." I don't remember grabbing Morgan. I remember my hands on her shoulders, pushing her away from Jake's presence, away from my son who was sobbing on the floor. I remember her stumbling backward, wine sloshing from her glass onto my carpet. "You're insane," she shrieked. "Did everyone see that?" She attacked me. I defended my son's birthday. My voice cracked. "What is wrong with you?" Mom rushed over, not to Jake, not to me. To Morgan. "Alicia, calm down. You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene?" "She just destroyed everything." "They're toys," Chris said, still filming. "Chill out. They're not toys. They're gifts. They're his birthday. I couldn't finish. Jake had his face pressed against my leg, shoulders shaking. Morgan adjusted her sunglasses, smoothed her hair. I was trying to teach him a lesson about materialism. About gratitude. But clearly that's above your parenting level. The room was silent except for Jake's crying. Then my father stood up. Dad walked across the kitchen slowly. He's not a big man, 5'9", retired postal worker, quiet in the way men of his generation often are. But when he moved, everyone stopped. He stood in front of Morgan. Looked at her directly. Then he reached up and removed his wedding ring. The gold band he'd worn for 37 years. He held it in his palm, staring at it like he was seeing it for the first time. Mom's face went white. "Robert, what are you doing?" Dad looked at Morgan. His voice was steady, quiet, final. "Get out. Stay out." 4 words. Morgan laughed, that same sharp, defensive sound. "Dad, I was just out. You can't be serious." "Mom, tell him he's being ridiculous." But Dad had already turned to me. He knelt down next to Jake, awkward and stiff, and started picking up Lego pieces. One by one. Dropping them into the broken box with small, deliberate clicks. "Come on, buddy," he said to Jake softly. "Let's see what we can save." Morgan looked at Mom. Are you really going to let him do this? Mom opened her mouth. Closed it. Looked at Dad, then at Morgan, then at the wedding ring still in Dad's hand. I think, Mom said slowly, each word painful, you should go. Morgan left. Door slamming, engine revving, gravel spraying. Chris slipped out 10 minutes later, mumbling about an appointment. Mom stayed but moved through the house like a ghost, cleaning up cake, avoiding eye contact. Dad and Jake sat on the floor for an hour, sorting Lego pieces. I stood in the kitchen, watching them, trying to understand what had just happened. My father had taken off his wedding ring. In 37 years of marriage, through fights and silences and all the complicated mess of family, he'd never taken off that ring. Alicia. I turned. Mom stood in the doorway, dish towel twisted in her hands. Your father isn't coming home with me tonight, she said quietly. What? He said he's staying here. On your couch. Until he's sure you and Jake are okay. Her eyes were red. He said he's done enabling Morgan's behavior. That he's been done for years but didn't know how to stop it. I couldn't speak. Mom's voice cracked. I don't know how to fix this. Maybe, I said carefully, it's not yours to fix. Comment below if you've ever had to rebuild after family betrayal. Your story matters, and so does Jake's. Dad stayed 3 nights. He didn't talk much, that wasn't his way. But he fixed Jake's skateboard. He ordered a replacement Lego set with overnight shipping from his own account. He made pancakes for breakfast and sat with Jake watching cartoons, asking questions about the characters, actually listening to the answers. On the 3rd night, after Jake went to bed, Dad and I sat at the kitchen table with coffee. I owe you an apology, he said. Dad. Let me finish. He stared into his mug. I saw what was happening. For years. The way Morgan treated you. The way your mother and I let it happen because it was easier than confrontation. The way we made you smaller so she could feel bigger. My throat tightened. When your marriage ended, I wanted to say something. Do something. But I didn't know how to contradict your mother without undermining her. I told myself you were strong enough to handle it. That you'd be fine. I am fine. You shouldn't have to be. He looked up. You should have had parents who protected you. Who saw you. Who made sure your son's birthday was safe. Why the ring? I asked quietly. Why did you take it off? Dad rotated his coffee mug. Because I made a promise when I put that ring on. To love, honor, protect. And for the last 5 years, maybe longer, I've been protecting the wrong things. The peace. The status quo. Morgan's feelings. He met my eyes. I forgot I had a daughter who needed protecting too. Morgan didn't stay quiet. Of course she didn't. The Facebook posts started 2 days later. Long, emotional essays about family betrayal, about being ostracized for one mistake, about parents who chose favorites. She never mentioned Jake's broken presents or the wine or the deliberate cruelty. Just her pain. Her exclusion. Her victimhood. The family text chain exploded. Aunts and uncles weighed in. Cousins took sides. Everyone had an opinion about Dad staying at my house, about Mom going to therapy alone, about how families were supposed to forgive and move forward. Chris sent me a private message, "Can't you just apologize so things go back to normal?" I stared at that text for a long time. Then I blocked him. Here's the thing about revenge. Real revenge isn't dramatic or cinematic. It's not an explosive confrontation or a mastermind scheme. Real revenge is boundaries. I sat at my kitchen table one night, 2 weeks after the party, and made a list. Not of how to hurt Morgan, but of how to protect Jake. Protect myself. Protect the small, hard-won peace I'd built. Then I made phone calls. First, to a lawyer. Just a consultation about grandparents' rights, custody modifications, what legal protections existed for children in hostile family situations. Information. Power. Second, to a therapist. For Jake, but also for me. Because I was tired of swallowing everything. Tired of making myself small. Third, to my HR department. I put in for the nursing supervisor position I'd been avoiding because it meant more responsibility, more visibility, more chances to fail. And fourth, this one was the hardest, I called my mother. If you're rebuilding your life after walking away from toxic family, subscribe. These stories matter. You matter. Mom met me at a coffee shop near her house. Neutral ground. She looked older, or maybe I was just seeing her clearly for the first time. How's Dad? I asked. Home now. Quiet. She stirred sugar into her coffee mechanically. He wants me to go to counseling with him. Marriage counseling. At 71 years old. Will you go? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know who I am if I'm not keeping the family together. Maybe that's the problem, I said gently. You kept us together by making some of us smaller. That's not peace, Mom. That's just silence. Her eyes filled. I don't know how to fix it. You can't fix Morgan. But you can stop enabling her. You can stop expecting me to absorb her cruelty so everyone else can be comfortable. She's my daughter. So am I. Mom flinched like I'd slapped her. And maybe, in a way, I had. Sometimes the truth is a slap. What do you want from me, Alicia? I took a breath. I want you to acknowledge what happened. Not explain it away. Not minimize it. Just say, Morgan was wrong. What she did to Jake was cruel. And I'm sorry I didn't stop it. Silence stretched between us. Other conversations hummed around us, normal people having normal coffee, normal problems. Finally, Mom spoke. Morgan was wrong. I waited. What she did was cruel. And I'm sorry. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'm sorry I spent so many years protecting her from consequences that I forgot you needed protecting too. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't movie scene dramatic. But it was real. And sometimes real is enough. Thanksgiving came. I didn't go to my parents' house. Instead, I hosted. Small table. Just me, Jake, Dad, and Mom, and Sarah from work who'd become more than a coworker, she'd become family. Morgan wasn't invited. Chris wasn't invited. The aunts who'd sent judgmental messages weren't invited. It was the smallest Thanksgiving we'd ever had. And the best. Jake helped make mashed potatoes. Dad carved the turkey with the same careful precision he used for everything. Mom brought her famous green bean casserole and didn't mention the people who weren't there. At one point, Jake looked around the table and said, "This is nice. Everyone's happy." Sarah caught my eye and smiled. After dinner, while Jake showed Dad his rebuilt Lego creation, Mom pulled me aside. "I invited Morgan for Christmas," she said quietly. Not to your house. To ours. I told her she needs to apologize to Jake. To you. A real apology. And that if she can't, she's not welcome. What did she say? She hung up on me. Mom's smile was sad. But I said it. That's something. The promotion came through in January. Nursing supervisor. Better hours, better pay, better office. Jake started therapy and stopped flinching when people laughed suddenly. But the real turning point came in February. My lawyer called. Your ex-husband filed for modified custody. He wants weekends. Marcus. The man who'd disappeared after the divorce, who'd paid minimal child support and seen Jake twice in 3 years, suddenly wanted weekends. Why now? I asked. According to his filing, he's concerned about Jake's emotional well-being after family incidents that were documented on social media. Morgan. She'd shown Marcus the Facebook posts, the narrative of me as unstable and explosive. Given him ammunition. The hearing was in March. I sat in the courthouse hallway, hands shaking, watching Marcus and his lawyer huddle together. He looked successful, new suit, new haircut, new confidence. Then I saw her. Morgan. Sitting 3 rows behind Marcus. She caught my eye and smiled. I understood then. This wasn't about Jake. It was about winning. About putting me back in my place. About proving she could still destroy what mattered most. My lawyer squeezed my shoulder. You ready? I thought about Jake's face on his birthday. About Dad's wedding ring in his palm. About Mom's cracked voice saying I'm sorry. About the small table at Thanksgiving, everyone happy. Yes, I said. I'm ready. If revenge is just living well and protecting what matters, tap that like button. We're almost to the resolution. The judge was a woman in her 60s with reading glasses and a patient expression. She reviewed the documents slowly. Marcus went first. Talked about stability, about concerns, about wanting to be involved in his son's life. Where have you been for 3 years? The judge asked mildly. Working. Building my career so I could provide. Have you paid child support consistently? A pause. There were some delays. Have you called your son on his birthday? Silence. Have you attended parent-teacher conferences? School events? Doctor appointments? Marcus's lawyer jumped in with explanations about work obligations and communication difficulties and extenuating circumstances. Then it was my turn. I didn't rail against Marcus. I didn't mention Morgan sitting in the back. I just presented facts. Jake's report cards, all A's and BS. His attendance record, perfect. Letters from his teacher, his therapist, his pediatrician. All attesting to a stable, healthy, well-adjusted child. I presented my work schedule, my income, my housing situation. The birthday party wasn't mentioned, I didn't need to. The evidence spoke for itself. The judge looked at Jake's file for a long time. Mr. Torres, she said finally, I appreciate your renewed interest in your son's life. However, consistency matters. Presence matters. This court sees no reason to disrupt a stable situation for a parent who has been largely absent. Marcus's face reddened. Your Honor. I'm granting Ms. Torres sole physical custody. You may have supervised visitation, 2 hours monthly, pending 6 months of consistent engagement and payment of back child support. The gavel came down. I walked out of that courthouse with my head up. Morgan was gone, slipped out during the testimony, I guess. Couldn't watch her plan fail. But Dad was there. Standing by the door, waiting. Proud of you, sweetheart, he said quietly. Summer came. Jake turned 9, a small party at the park, just friends from school, no family drama. He laughed when the piñata broke. Collected his candy with bright eyes. Morgan never apologized. We haven't spoken since that February courthouse appearance. I heard through extended family that she and her husband separated. That she moved to California. That she tells people I abandoned the family. I don't correct the narrative anymore. The people who matter know the truth. Mom and Dad come for dinner every Sunday. Mom asks about my work. Dad helps Jake with math homework. They're not perfect, they still make comments sometimes, still fall into old patterns. But they're trying. And trying is more than I had before. Chris reached out once, asking if we could move past this. I told him I'd be happy to have a relationship when he apologized for filming my son's pain and calling me dramatic. He hasn't responded. That's okay too. Marcus pays child support now. Shows up for his 2-hour monthly visits exactly on time, leaves exactly on time. Jake tolerates it. He's polite. But he doesn't ask when he'll see his dad again. The promotion at work led to another opportunity, assistant director of nursing. I applied. I got it. The salary means Jake can do summer camp, art classes, eventually college without crippling debt. I'm dating someone, a teacher Jake introduced me to at a school event. Nothing serious yet. But he's kind. He listens. He remembered Jake's Lego obsession and brought him a mini set on their third meeting. It's not revenge. It's not dramatic justice. It's just life. Better life. Quieter life. Mine. Here's what I learned. Revenge isn't about destroying someone who hurt you. It's about refusing to let their destruction define you. Morgan broke my son's gifts. But she didn't break my son. She didn't break me. My father took off his wedding ring and said 4 words, and those 4 words gave me permission to set boundaries I'd been too afraid to set. To stop making myself small. To stop swallowing cruelty for the sake of keeping peace. The family looks different now. Smaller. Quieter. But healthier. I don't miss the big Thanksgivings, the obligation gatherings, the careful navigation of Morgan's moods and Mom's peacekeeping and everyone's silent expectations. I don't miss being invisible in my own family. Jake asked me once why Aunt Morgan doesn't come around anymore. I told him the truth, sometimes people hurt us, and we have to protect ourselves. That doesn't mean we hate them. It means we love ourselves enough to stop accepting pain. He thought about that for a minute. Then said, like a boundary? Exactly like a boundary. He nodded, satisfied, and went back to his Legos, the rebuilt set, plus 3 more he'd earned through chores and good grades. Each one a small monument to resilience. If this story reached you, if it felt familiar, if you're rebuilding after family betrayal, comment below and let me know. Your story matters. Your boundaries matter. Your peace matters. Subscribe for more stories about choosing yourself, setting boundaries, and discovering that sometimes the family we build is stronger than the family we're born into. And to everyone who's ever felt invisible in their own family, who's ever swallowed cruelty to keep the peace, who's ever watched someone destroy what you love while others laugh, I see you. You're not dramatic. You're not overreacting. You're not alone. Sometimes 4 words can change everything. But the real change? That comes from within. Thanks for listening to my story. I'll see you in the next one.